That's what he's talking about.
Talking utter rubbish.
Welcome to WatchMojoUK, and today we're looking at the most embarrassing moments for British politicians on television.
What I'm really looking for is a bit of forgiveness.
Before we begin, we publish new content every day, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos.
Tony Abbott.
Obviously, Mr. Abbott has got a huge amount of experience.
Even if he's a homophobic misogynist.
We're not talking about anything the former Australian Prime Minister has said or done on television himself, but rather about our former Health Secretary, Matt Hancock, who was grilled about Abbott on Sky News in 2020. At the time, Abbott had just been made a trade policy advisor, but Abbott had a lot of, shall we say, controversial views, trying to block Australia from legalising same-sex marriage, and wanting to change the law so that adultery would need to be proven in court to allow people to divorce.
I don't think that's true. I haven't seen any.
I've just told you what he said. I'm sure you don't support some of his comments.
Hancock was challenged by this live on air by Kay Burley, initially denying that Burley was right, and then saying that it was all right because Abbott's trade expertise outweighs everything else about him.
He's a homophobe and he's a misogynist.
Well, he's also an expert in trade.
So one plays off against the other? Really? Is that really what you're saying, Health Secretary? Come on.
The death penalty. By its very nature, Question Time is always packed with politicians and journalists, but they seem to rarely have any idea what they're talking about.
And actually, on that basis alone, I would actually support the reintroduction of capital punishment to serve as a deterrent.
In this legendary argument, Ian Hislop discussed capital punishment, as it's frequently suggested that we ought to bring it back. His stance is that the risk of a wrongful conviction, and therefore wrongful execution, is so great that capital punishment should never be brought back.
Over the years, large numbers of these cases have been found to be entirely wrong, and the men convicted, almost all of the men, there's a couple of women, have been found innocent.
Cue former Home Secretary Priti Patel espousing support for the death penalty on the basis that it works as a deterrent. Hislop's response was a classic Question Time moment.
It's not a deterrent, killing the wrong people.
Well, no, capital punishment would act as a deterrent.
Say sorry. Was the media establishment biased against Jeremy Corbyn? Who knows? But perhaps Philip Schofield was.
If people get higher wages, which they need, if we do something about the terrible levels of child poverty and poverty in this country, people have more money to spend. That is itself an economic growth.
In 2019, Corbyn was against Boris Johnson in another general election, which Johnson would go on to win with a huge majority for the Tories. Both candidates did the interview rounds, for some outlets at least, including appearing on This Morning to be interviewed by those journalistic titans, Schofield and Willoughby.
Can I make it clear?
Just say sorry.
No, wait a minute. I and our party...
No, just say sorry.
Can I say something?
Well,
our party...
I want you to say sorry.
While Schofield grilled Corbyn relentlessly on whether he was going to apologise to ITV's viewers for the then ongoing anti-Semitism scandal, Johnson was given a very easy time of it, with the two even posting a selfie with him after the interview was over.
Yes. And so
I know what you're going to say.
Do you?
Well,
what am I going to say?
Well, I may be wrong.
That means you're worried about something.
What am I going to say,
about?
Prime Minister?
Eric Pickles.
Let me explain, my chair. Let me explain. Please just let me explain for a moment.
More Question Time. In 2009, the biggest news story was the MP expenses scandal. After years of trying to get the details of MPs' expenses via the Freedom of Information Act, the documents were finally leaked to the Telegraph and released to the public.
I have never, ever claimed my full allowance. I have always claimed the amount. I publish them. I've always published them on my website.
Chairman of the Tory party, Eric Pickles, appeared on Question Time to defend parliamentarians from the ire of the public after they'd claimed for things like Mars bars and elaborate landscaping.
I had to be there. I was
like a job, in other words.
It was like a job.
He was asked by David Dimbleby how he could justify claiming for a second home when he lives only 37 miles away from Parliament, to the disbelief of the audience.
How far are you away from Westminster?
37 miles.
And you need two houses.
Fridgegate. While Boris Johnson was happy to talk to Holly Willoughby in the run-up to the 2019 election, he was less happy to talk to Piers Morgan.
Swaney, shout at him. To come on our programme so far. Swaney, shout at him. Say, come on, Good Morning Britain, Prime Minister, if you get the chance. Give him the full barrels.
While Piers is a controversial figure for many reasons, he did have a good track record of holding high-level politicians to account. It's been speculated that this was why Johnson avoided Piers during the entire election cycle, going as far as hiding in a big fridge while he was doing photo ops with some local milkmen early one morning.
Morning, Prime Minister. Will you come on Good Morning Britain, Prime Minister? I've just had...
He completely ignored correspondent Jonathan Swain and ran away to hide, never doing the interview he'd promised to do weeks previously.
Right, he's been taken inside, into the freezer. He's gone into the fridge. There's a bunker. Swaney, heroic work, mate. So far, isn't it?
Truss loses her seat.
Here we go, everybody. This could be historic.
Our most unpopular Prime Minister in history headed back to the polls in 2024 to try and cling onto her seat in Norfolk.
For her, I think there are a lot of people within the Conservative Party that can trace back our absolute rout tonight to what happened during her very brief premiership.
Truss had already been out campaigning in her constituency that week, completely deluded about her own popularity, as always. The results were read out, and the former PM was pushed into second place by the Labour Party by a margin of fewer than 700 votes.
Truss, Liz, the Conservative Party candidate, 11,217.
Oh, I think she's lost. Yep, she's lost.
But while other senior Tories who lost their seats that night, namely Penny Mordaunt, could barely keep it together, Truss looked so calm you have to wonder if she'd even heard the result. She was completely dead-eyed and unblinking, much like the head of lettuce she hates so much. Sunak on tonight.
Prime Minister.
Gosh, hello. Sorry to have
well,
kept
thanks you. No, not at all. I know you've been in Normandy.
Yeah, it all just ran out. It was incredible, but it just ran over everything.
Another incident from 2024, Rishi Sunak's biggest electoral blunder came when he left the 80th anniversary of D-Day early. While others, including Keir Starmer, stayed in France for the commemorations all day, Sunak jetted back to Blighty.
Which I haven't seen President Biden's remarks, but I think that's kind of the echo, I think, what he said.
What was so urgent was an interview with Tonight on ITV, an interview that didn't air until days later, after masses of controversy had already been generated. He arrived and talked about how the D-Day events had run over, though ITV definitely sounded like they would have rescheduled if he'd asked, given the importance of the events.
That was a mistake, and I apologise.
He was forced to apologise, with even Penny Mordaunt condemning him during a debate.
What happened was completely wrong, and the Prime Minister has rightly apologised for that.
Matt Hancock down under. If you thought Matt Hancock would disappear from the public eye after his disastrous handling of the pandemic and the Kissgate scandal, you were wrong.
You were socialising someone outside of your household.
Yeah, I didn't break any laws. Guidance is different, but anyway, I don't want to go
Oh, so there's a rule and there's a law.
Despite going through more controversies than most, Hancock returned to our screens as a contestant on I'm a Celebrity, eating all manner of revolting things to win those coveted stars.
What I do appreciate is that you did eat a sheep's vagina for us.
While he did frustratingly well at the trials, the real cringe came when he was in camp, being grilled by his fellow celebs on how he could sleep at night after letting hundreds of thousands of people die because of dodgy PPE deals and restrictions that came in far too late. Not to mention, he was only there to sell his book.
So why did you break your own guidance?
Because it was a mistake, because I fell in love with somebody and we all know what happened.
And I was taken by love.
Well, it's true.
Farage on Trump.
All of it, to me, was woefully irresponsible.
No. End this nonsense.
It's hard to predict whether Nigel Farage is going to behave at least a little reasonably when he turns up on TV, or whether he'll go off the deep end. On this Good Morning Britain interview, it was the latter, as he was quizzed by Piers Morgan about his alleged friendship with Donald Trump.
Do not allow your viewers to believe that.
We literally all heard him, Nigel. What are you talking about?
Are you seriously telling me that he said bleach?
Yes.
Do you not
You
remember?
are wrong.
Piers brought up Trump's dangerous claims that injections of cleaning solution could potentially cure COVID, only for Farage to claim that this was fake news.
Grow up, stop being fake news.
Sorry, Nigel, just to clarify, these are the words of Donald Trump.
Grow up and stop being fake news. He never said bleach.
Okay.
He said that Piers and the people at ITV had completely fabricated Trump saying this, even when they pulled out a recording. Faced with cold, hard facts, Farage doubled down and embarrassed himself even more.
Sorry, Nigel, have I made that up?
Yes.
Okay.
We just saw the clip.
No, it's okay.
Dorries over breakfast.
Have you spoken to the Prime Minister recently in the last 24 hours?
Why? Why are you asking me that question?
Certainly the most cringe politician to ever serve in the House of Commons, Nadine Dorries has made a fool of herself countless times. There's her array of cringe romance novels, her book about how Boris was ousted by a cabal of conspirators, her attempts to host Talk TV, and of course, this interview.
We've communicated.
She was on BBC Breakfast very early in the morning to talk about Johnson, still the PM, at which point Dorries got very cagey indeed.
What has he communicated to you?
Well, I'm not going to tell you the extent of my communications with the Prime Minister.
She refused to say for sure whether she'd spoken to him recently while Partygate was just getting started, saying that it was all very private. Did the Tory party even approve her going on the Beeb to talk about this? Who knows?
I'd say his mood was very, very positive, extremely positive.
Let us know in the comments if you think politicians should be banned from the airwaves.
Don't you think that's a bit hypocritical? Okay.
Do you agree with our picks? Check out this other recent clip from WatchMojoUK and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.